but I'm a pre-tribulation rapture guy. I believe before the wrath of God gets poured out, He meets us in the air and we get taken to heaven, where we are at the judgment seat of Christ and our works done as a believer are judged and we receive a reward. And not only that, but we have the marriage supper where we sit down with God and Jesus and we have the marriage supper of the Lamb. That's what we do. And then I honestly believe that in that 7-year period when we're in heaven, we only do that, but we also train. Some of you are like, train for what? When we come back with Jesus at the Battle of Armageddon. Now, for some of you men, that's right up your alley. Right? You're like, that's sweet. Finally, something. All this love each other and forgive each other. Let's go kick some. Revelation 4. Here's why I believe a pre-trib rapture before we get into Revelation 4. Number one, in Titus 2:13, it talks about this blessed hope. If we're not going to be taken up and meet the Lord in the air, then it's not really hopeful if we're going to have to go through 7 years of hell on earth. That's really not hope. That's me going and buying ammo. That's me buying a bomb shelter. You know what I'm saying? That's not hope. Okay? That's not hope. Not only that, but the church is mentioned 19 times all the way up to chapter 3, verse 22. So from Revelation 1:1 to chapter 3, verse 22, the church, the word church, us, those who have been called out of the world to worship God through Jesus Christ, us, the church has been named 19 times. Did you know that the church is not named, not again, until chapter 22, verse 16? Why? Because we're not there in the tribulation. Because right at the end of chapter 3, in chapters 4 and 5, you get to see a picture of what heaven is like, and we're going to be there, and then on earth there are things that are going to start to happen. We're not going to be a part of it. Not until chapter 22, verse 16, do we see the word church again. And that's when we come back and set up dominion on the earth for 1,000 years with Christ. So we're not on the earth for the tribulation. And by the time you're done, when we look at some of this stuff in the tribulation, I'm telling you, you're going to be thanking God. You're going to be like, ooh, thank the Lord. Chapter 4, verse 1 says this, After this, I looked, and behold, a door standing open in heaven, and the first voice which I heard speaking to me like a trumpet said, Come up here, and I will show you what must take place after this. After what? After the church age. After the church age, after we are raptured. Jesus says to John, in this vision, he's in the Spirit. He's seeing this vision, and Jesus says to him, because it's Jesus, he says, a voice like a trumpet, very loud. I don't know if you've ever had a trumpet blown in your ear, but it's resounding, okay? Have you ever sat in a car where they have the bass thumping? You know, you sit down in it and your liver starts to shake, and you're like, ooh, hope I don't have any kidney stones because they're going to get free right now. You know what I'm saying? It just, TMI. All right? But that's what happens, right? Imagine Jesus, a voice like a trumpet, resounding where every atom in your body vibrates at the frequency of his voice, and he says, come up here, I'm going to show you what's going to take place in the future. He's bringing John to a different dimension to where now John can see future things as he looks down the hallways of time. Picture it like this. In our own three-dimensional mind, this is how we can picture it. From this level, I can only see so far. But if I go to a 5-story building, I can see farther, can I not? If I get on a 10-story building, I can see even further, can I not? Imagine that the distance that I see is linear time. And Jesus says, come up here to this dimension, and I will show you linear time, what must take place after this. And John's able to see what's going to happen. In our three-dimensional mind, that we're having trouble with that, but let's just realize this. Heaven is not subject to time. So when eternity is not time forever, eternity is no time. What? I heard a scientist once say that there are many, many, many dimensions created. We only live in a three-dimensional world. And he said faith is the fourth dimension. When you have faith, you start to operate in a fourth dimension that nobody can see. Faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not yet seen. It says that in Hebrews 11:1. Now, faith is the fourth dimension is what he said, but he said there's multiple dimensions. He says when you get to the 17th dimension, by their calculations, and just trust me, I teach sixth grade science. I know what he's talking about. No. He said at the 17th dimension, you could take a basketball filled with air, invert it inside out, and not lose any air. And he had some kind of calculations where he could figure that out. I'm like, wow, mind blown. Now just think of this. If there's infinite number of dimensions where things are possible that our mind cannot wrap around, think about the one who created the different dimensions. Ooh. Yeah. It's scary. Did your heart not skip a beat? I mean, imagine God sitting there with a basketball going, watch this. That's only the 17th dimension. There's like 450 million, and I created all of them. Now come up here, and I'm going to show you what's about to take place. All right? So this is what we're getting into. Your mind, when we start reading this, is going to be like tingling, and your heart's going to be throbbing because this is fantastic stuff. It's fantastic stuff. It is awesome stuff. They need to make a movie off of this. Please, dear God, let them make a movie with the graphics and everything. Oh, my goodness. People will be getting saved. All right, chapter 4. This is what happens. We get raptured, and we see things from a different perspective. This is the throne room in heaven, and I love this chapter in Revelation because you and I are going to get this chance to see this when we get raptured. Chapter 4 and chapter 5, this is about the church in heaven. So chapter 4, verses 3 says this, and he who sat there had the appearance of jasper and carnelian, and around the throne was a rainbow that had the appearance of an emerald. And around the throne were 24 thrones. Seated on thrones were 24 elders, clothed in white garments, with golden crowns on their heads. From the throne came flashes of lightning and rumblings and peals of thunder. And before the throne were burning 7 torches of fire, which are the 7 spirits of God, the completeness of the Holy Spirit. And before the throne there was at it were a sea of glass like crystal. Who? Now, stop right there. And if your mind is not taken back by what you just read, you need to check your pulse. Because we haven't even got to Jesus. We haven't even got to God. This is a lake. A lake in heaven. Now, I fished on Lake Conroe. It's pretty. I fished on Lake Toledo Bend. You fished, what is the prettiest lake that you've ever fished on, fisherman? Lake Whitney. How pretty is it? Can you see down? Yeah, you can see down. Imagine a lake that is glass crystal. Meaning, actually, there is light emanating from the lake. Yeah, I wonder what the bass are like there. Right? I wonder if there is bass in that lake. That's a good question. And in your heaven there is. Very good. You're like, I'm not going to the throne room. Hold on a second. I got to see what's in this thing. Okay? Watch it be like the fish that swallowed Jonah. I knew it. Anyway, so here's this lake of crystal. It is perfect. It is pure. And here's the throne room. And there's flashes of lightning, peals of thunder. I don't know if you've ever been around a thunderstorm when the lightning hits right by you and then the thunder hits. Boom. What do? Drop what you're doing and run. I was in my backyard a couple years ago, and there was one of those thunderstorms that come on. You could see the dark clouds as they just kind of like steamroll in. And I thought, man, that is so cool. You know, the awesomeness, the power of a thunderstorm. And then lightning hit, it seemed like, in my backyard by me. I don't know if you've ever been that close to lightning, but it popped. Pow! And I could have sworn I might have got in the house before the thunder. Because that's how quick. I mean, I saw a flash, and it was boom, and it was like, whoop, I was in the house. In the house. Right? My kids, they were outside. They're on their own. I wasn't outside. They were inside crying. You know? You're on your own. I'm saving myself. I'm such a good dad. But anyway, this is what's coming from the throne room. I had a dream one time where God spoke to me, and it was my ears heard thunder. But in my heart, I heard a small, still voice. This is God's living room. A thunderstorm of holiness, lightning, flashes, a peaceful, calm lake, and then there's 24 elders, quite possibly the 12 tribes of Israel and the 12 disciples, or just people that represent different nations and tongues. And here's what continues to happen. Look in verse 8. And the 4 living creatures, okay, now you're about to get freaked out. Watch this. And the 4 living creatures, each of them with 6 wings, what? Are full of eyes. Now, I don't know if they actually have eyes everywhere, but here's what it means, is that they see everything going on at the same time in the throne room. Y'all see what I'm saying? You're like, I can't imagine. I can only see what I'm looking at. Imagine being able to see and know what's going on at your house right now. And over here, and in Oregon, and behind you. Okay? Well, most women can do that, but expand that a little bit further. These are the 4 living creatures. Now watch how awesome these things are. Full of eyes all around within, and day and night they never cease to say, Holy, holy, holy is the Lord God Almighty, who was and is to come. Glory and honor and thanks to Him who is seated on the throne, who lives forever and ever. The 24 elders fall down before Him who is seated on the throne and worship Him who lives forever and ever, and they cast their crowns in the throne, saying, Worthy are you, Lord God, to receive glory and honor and power, for you created all things, and by your will they existed and were created. We haven't even gotten to God yet. Haven't even gotten there yet. We're not even to Jesus yet. And this is what happens. You have this lake of crystal surrounding this throne room. It is perfect and peaceful. The flashes of lightning, power is emanating. Pure holiness is coming from this thunderstorm of awesomeness. And at a glimpse, we see these creatures that have 6 wings, 2 to fly, 2 to cover their faces. The reason why, because they're in a holy, holy, holy place, and you just don't walk in and look at a holy, holy person. You'll get incinerated. Seriously, you'll get incinerated. And then there's 2 to cover their feet. If you remember Moses, when he saw the burning bush, that burning bush said, take off your sandals because the place you're walking is what? So they cover their feet. And they fly around and they see all things. What they have been doing in eternity past and since time began, and what they will do for eternity future is this. With their all-seeing capability, looking at every dimension of who God is as they fly around them, the only thing that they can say is this: holy, holy, holy. Think about that. They can see more than we can see. And like a diamond, when you shine a light in a diamond, how many of you got really big diamonds? Okay? Okay, when you shine, like, what is that? All right, when quartz, have you ever had quartz? Topaz? When you shine a light in there, it reflects all these different lights, right? When they go around God and they see a different angle of who He is, it's the same glorious thing, holiness. They cannot not say holy because that's who God is. That's who God is. So now we're getting closer, right? We're getting closer to who God is. We're getting closer to seeing what's going on. We got the lake. We got the 24 elders. This worship set's going on. It's rocking. These 24 elders come off of their throne. They throw their crowns and they say, holy, 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 glory and honor to you. And these seraphim is what they're called. Burning ones is what it means in Hebrew. The burning ones are these living creatures that fly around in the throne room. They're the guardians of the throne room, basically, and they say, holy, holy, holy is the Lord God Almighty. Now, you're going to get a chance to see that one day. You're going to get a chance to see that one day. I'm pretty sure, Gwen, you'll put the fishing pole down, and you'll get a chance to look at what's going on in God's living room. Chapter 5. This is where it gets good. Then I saw in the right hand of him who was seated on the throne a scroll written within and on the back sealed with 7 seals. So this is God. We finally get there. And we're not even to God. We're at his palm. And he's got a scroll with 7 seals on the back of it. Now, in that time period, when we talk about seals, what they would do is get a piece of melted wax, and they would have either a signet ring or they would have a clay tablet with an emblem on it. And when they would seal something like a letter, they would fold it, put that melted wax, and then they would impress their seal upon it. And so when you got the letter, you would look at it and say, oh, that is the crest or the emblem of the Giggle Bus. There's maybe a bus. Oh, that's from Andy. There's a Giggle Bus. Okay? So, here it is. A scroll that has 7 seals on it, impressed upon it. Now, this is what's important about this, because some of you are like, well, that's cool. It's like a letter with the back of it licked. That's not necessarily what it is. The 7 seals is this. In the first century, a scroll sealed with 7 seals was a testamentary, or what it means is this. It was a will that names an inheritance to be received. So, whenever you see a scroll, if you're living back in the first century, and you see a scroll with 7 seals on it, then you know that is a will. That's somebody's inheritance. And only the person with the power of attorney can break those seals. So it's not just a cool little scroll like, hey, check out my scroll. This is, I have in my hand an inheritance for somebody. That's what God has in his hand. Now watch what happens. Now, this is cool. The will contains the inheritance of God's people, and what the inheritance is this. We see the fulfillment of this in the 1,000-year reign that we will have with Christ. Our inheritance is in the scroll, guys. Listen to me, church. That's your inheritance, what God is holding in that scroll. That's your inheritance. Now watch what happens. Let's keep reading. Look at verse 3. Verse 2. And I saw a mighty angel proclaiming with a loud voice, who is worthy to open the scroll and break its seals? And no one in heaven, on earth, or under the earth was able to open the scroll or to look into it. And I began to weep loudly because no one was found worthy to open the scroll or to look into it. I have this will, and in this will I have an inheritance of $35 million and half of the land in Montana and about 3/4 of the land in Alaska. But guess what? Nobody can open it. I would cry. I mean, no. I would weep loudly. Now think about this. The whole earth is yours. Reigning with Christ is yours, but nobody can open the will. I'd lose it too. I'd be like, surely you did not bring me up here into this awesome place to show me, hey, I got a will, can't open it. How mean would that be? I would cry. I would lose it, and he does. Here's the thing about this, is that our inheritance is found in that we look to a future of reigning with Christ on the earth. We look to a new government. God, I'm so sick and tired of government. I'm so sick and tired of man messing and jacking things up. I am. I'm tired of it. I'm tired of people lying to me. I'm tired of man deceiving me to get what he wants so he can stay in power. Full well knowing that all along, when it comes down to it, that man or those people or that government will answer to Yahweh. I'm so tired of it. I'm ready for Christ to come down, sit in Jerusalem, and rule this thing right. To have justice for once. To have love for once. For nation not to fight against nation. For racism not to be here. For injustice not to be here. I want all that stuff to stop. I hate it, but guess what? Government now, with man in control without Christ, perpetuates it. And they use it to their own power. Would you expect anything else from man? I would. The older I get, the least I expect from people. That sounds mean. But as a younger, I was like, oh, everybody's nice and good. No, they're not. I am so ready. This is why John wept. Because being dissatisfied with the way things are now, we want Jesus. He can rule rightly. He's the only one. He's the only one that can sit on a throne as a king, sole power found in him, and rule justly and rightly. Where racism stops, injustice stops, people stop fighting, people stop being the victim, and people start doing what they're supposed to be doing. Only Jesus can do that for us. And right now, people who do not know Jesus are clamoring for a leader to do that. I don't want to get too political on you, but I think about this all the time. It's like when our last president, when Barack got elected the first time or second time, there was so much hope placed in man. There's so much hope placed in man. And some people think, well, yeah, it turned out good, but listen, if we place our hope in the man, he's going to make the political process that Barack Obama did look like a 3-year-old playground. You got what I'm saying? It's going to be amazing. So here he weeps, and this is what I'm trying to get to this. He weeps. And let's keep reading. And one of the elders said to me, "Weep not, the Lion of the tribe of Judah, the Root of David, has conquered so that he can open the scroll and its 7 seals. And between the throne and the 4 living creatures and among the elders, I saw a lamb standing, as though it had been slain, with 7 horns and with 7 eyes, which are the 7 spirits of God sent out to all the earth. And he went and took the scroll from the right hand who was seated on the throne. And when he had taken the scroll, the 4 living creatures and the 24 elders fell down before the Lamb, each holding a harp and golden bowls full of incense." I'll stop right there. We finally get to him. The whole meaning and purpose of humanity's existence is found in the midst of the throne, the Lamb who was slain. It's interesting that the elder looked at him and said, it's okay, the Lion of the tribe of Judah was the one that was able to unlock the seals. And he says, when he looked into the midst of the throne, the centrality of the universe, the centrality of human history, the centrality of why we are here, we look at it, and it's a lamb that was slain. What does that mean? It means this, that he's living, he was standing, but he was still slain. Do you know that Jesus did not take off his humanity when he was resurrected, but he's still fully man, just glorified man? He still carries the marks of our sin on him. For eternity, when you see Jesus either in heaven or on the new earth, he will come to you and he will either shake your hand, and when he puts out his hand, the mark on his wrist will always be there. Think about that. Now that's a tattoo that lasts. So every time that you see him, you're going to be reminded, this is the one that saved. 15 million trillion years from now, when we're living in glory on the new earth and everything's going cool, Jesus will come by your house and be like, "Hey, Kim, what's going on?" And "Hey, Jesus." And he's going to put out his hand to give you a hug, and you're going to see many, 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 many years ago, he was slain for you and me. He did not take it off. So here it is. We look, and in the center of everything, we have these 4 magical beasts that look like something from a C.S. Lewis book. A crystal lake. Here we see, not Aslan, the lion, we see a lamb. We see a lamb. And what's funny about this is that when you see this lamb, it says he has 7 horns, probably a crown with 7 horns. Mean this in the Bible. It means power and honor. So here's this little lamb that was slain, crucified for you. did not even talk back to those who were crucifying him, but received it for the joy that was set before him of seeing you in glory one day. Here he is with all power and honor, that even these four massive, magical beasts fall down at his presence. Still carrying the marks of taking away your sin. Think about that. I'm talking, just meditate on that for just a second. Instead of turning and seeing a lion, as the elder told him, said, look, the lion is able to unlock the seals. Instead of turning and seeing a lion in all its glory, big mane and powerful, he sees a lamb that was slain. A lamb. How many of you have ever been scared of a lamb? You ever seen a lamb? Ooh, just so cute. Right? A little bitty lamb comes walking out. It's just so innocent, you know? You're like, oh, little bitty lamb, you know? Now, if you turned and saw a lion, but it was a lamb that was slain, always carrying the marks of saving us from our sin. And here he comes, the center of the universe, the center of human history, guys. See, here's the thing. There is no point to history unless there is a lamb that is slain. That's what I'm saying. There is no point to your life unless there is a lamb that is slain at the center of it. Now, you can have all the cool magical beasts. You can have whatever you want in this life. You can have the crystal lake. You can have all those cool things, but you will not be fulfilled unless the lamb is in the center of the throne of your heart. That's it. If you want to know the meaning to life, look at a lamb that was slain. If you want to see the human history coming to an end and beginning anew with eternity, one center figure, the lamb that was slain. Nobody else but a lamb that was slain. Oh, it's getting good. Look at verse 8. And when he had taken the scroll, the four living creatures and the 24 elders fell down before the Lamb, each holding a harp. They worshipped him. Golden bowls full of incense, which are the prayers of the saints. Did you know when you pray, and I believe this, that some of my prayers are in these golden bowls? Did you see what they're prayers of the saints? Well, who's a saint? You, me. We're called out. We're distinct. Why? By the blood of Jesus Christ from the Lamb that was slain. And they take these, and they're the incense. And like in the temple, in the tabernacle of meeting, what they would do is, right before the Holy of Holy veil, they would have a table with incense burning, and that represented the prayers of the people. So now we have this as a replica of what is in heaven, and now we see what's in heaven, a golden bowl, and it's full of incense. It's got potpourri in it. But the potpourri is your prayers. The prayers you prayed. And I don't know which ones, but they're there. And this is what they do. They have these bowls, and they sing a new song, "Worthy are you to take the scroll, open it up, and you have made them a kingdom of priests, our God." And he takes the scroll, and this is what he does. He begins to open it. Chapter 6. Oh, verse 10, it says, "You made them a kingdom of priests, and they shall reign on the earth." That's our inheritance, to reign on the earth. Chapter 6. Now, that's what we see in heaven. We get raptured, we see all this. Now, chapter 6 is the seals begin to be broken. The inheritance begins to be opened. And what you see is the Lamb that was slain with all power and honor takes the scroll. He is the power of attorney. And he is going to open the scroll and give us our inheritance. We shall reign with him. So it's like having a good brother instead of a brother that takes the wheel and opens it up and takes everything because it was given to him and doesn't share it. Everything was given to Christ, but he's a good older brother. And he looks at it and he says, "According to your works, I'll share this with you. I'll share this with you. I'll share." That's why it's important to live your life now for Jesus. Did you hear what I said? Because he will open that scroll, and the will that is given to him, all the earth will be given to him. And according to our works, what we do with our life now will determine what kind of capacity we will glorify and reign with him on the new earth. Well, good job, Kim Shannon. Here you go. Here's some land the size of Texas. I don't know. Good job. Okay, that's what I'm saying. Because when we look, does that give you hope, comfort, or courage? All of it. All of it, man. All of it. That gives me hope. Gives me hope. What time is it? 11:30? Oh, man. Did my alarm go off? Okay, we got 5 minutes. Here we go. Let's get through some of these seals because it's cool. All right. Now, chapter 6, verse 2. He unlocks the first seal, and he breaks it open. I heard one of the living creatures say, with a voice like thunder, "Come." And I looked, and behold, a white horse, and its rider had a bow, and a crown was given to him, and he came out conquering and to conquer. All right? That right there is the Antichrist. And here's why, okay? We're getting into some deep stuff here. Follow me. He breaks that first seal, and then at that point in time, what we see happening on the earth is the Antichrist comes into power. And here's why I think it's the Antichrist. Two major reasons. Number one, he's on a white horse. Do you know who is like one that's riding on a white horse? Jesus. You know, the devil will always mimic what he can't create. And what will happen at this point in time, the Antichrist, he says he has a bow with no arrows. You know what that means? He came to conquer, but not through warfare, but diplomatically. He's very smart. But what's going to prepare the way for him is a person or a religious system known as the false prophet or the beast, which is at work right now on the earth. Always has been. Just as Jesus had John the Baptist to prepare the way for him, so the Antichrist will have the false prophet and that religious system to prepare the way for him to come into power. This false prophet system is one that lumps Jesus in with all other systems and eventually will turn into you have to worship the Antichrist. It is a system that is eroding the foundation of our religious system of Christianity, and Jesus is the only way. It's already there. You see it happening. That is a false prophet preparing the way, that religious system that is happening. Universalism, everybody goes to heaven, all roads lead to heaven. That is false. And what's going to happen is when the rapture happens and millions of people are gone, when we get out of here, the world's going to be in a panic. What happened? What happened to Joanna? What happened to Travis? What happened? And there are going to be all these crazy theories, and somebody will step up, and the Antichrist will make a peace treaty with Israel and try to calm everybody down. Say, I know what happened. You see what I'm saying? So this is what's happening on the earth. This is not in heaven. We're in heaven. This is what's happening on the earth. Antichrist comes to power. He has a bow with no arrows, diplomatic, power. Now watch what follows the Antichrist. Israel will sign a peace treaty with him because all the nations are going to come against Israel, and he'll step up and sign a peace treaty with them and try to calm everybody down. But the whole motive behind the whole thing is to get power for himself. Halfway into we'll see this, halfway into the tribulation, he'll set himself up as God in the temple and make everybody worship him. And if you don't, you're killed. That's just how Satan does things. He doesn't come at you full on. He just comes at you a little deceptive. Did God really say you could eat of the tree? The devil didn't come to him in the garden and say, eat this right now. He didn't say. Didn't God say? I don't know if he's got your best interests. Here's the Antichrist, filled with a spirit of Antichrist, comes and he signs a peace treaty with Israel to calm everybody down. He says, I've got this. It's okay. I'll take everything under control. And this is what happened. This is what follows the Antichrist. Verse 4. And came another horse after the next seal, bright red. Its rider was permitted to take peace from the earth so that people should slay one another, and he was given a great sword. Think about that. Open warfare. Antichrist comes, sets himself up, and then all of a sudden, literally, now all hell breaks loose. there is a spirit on a red horse that comes with a great sword, and there is massive warfare. What follows warfare? Well, when you think it, the third seal is broken, verse 5. And the third living creature said, "Come." And I looked and behold, a black horse, and its rider had a pair of scales in his hand. And I heard there seemed to be a voice in the midst of the four living creatures saying, "A quart of wheat for a denarius, and 3 quarts of barley for a denarius, and do not harm the oil and wine." What does that mean? There is a great famine and injustice, and the economies begin to collapse. That basically was saying, for one meal a day, right there, for one meal, you have to work all day. But do not hurt the oil and wine. What does that mean? In those days, rich people had oil and wine. Now you see the injustice. You're blue collar, middle class, and lower. Guess what? You're working all day for a meal, but my oil and wine. There is a greater separation of the rich and the poor, and there is open warfare, and the Antichrist is now in Jerusalem. Oh, it gets better. It gets better. Just wait. What comes when economies collapse, and what comes when there is injustice, and the poor get poorer, and the rich get richer, and there is so much warfare? This is what comes. Verse 8, and I looked, and behold, a pale horse. This is the next seal, and its rider was Death. Oh, nice. Nice. Hey, what's your name? Death. And Hades follow him. Oh, even better. Who's that behind you? Oh, that's my friend Hades, meaning that's hell. My name is Death, and here's hell. I'd like to introduce you to each other. Watch this. So he comes, his name is Death, and hell is falling behind him, and they were given authority over a fourth of the earth to kill with the sword, and famine, and with pestilence, and by wild beasts. And that's where we will stop. Right there. We'll begin next week. The fourth seal is broken. Death comes, and guess what? Millions of people die from disease because you can't buy drugs now to kill yourself. There's open war in the streets. The Antichrist is in power, and now he's going to eventually put a mark on everybody and say, if you don't get the mark, I'm going to kill you. Now that is bad. But we won't be here. We'll be with the 24 elders taking our thrones and our crowns and saying, "Worthy is the Lamb who was slain." That's what we'll be doing. Does that give you hope? Yeah. Does that give you comfort? Yes. Does that give you courage? Yes. Live your life. Live your life for Jesus. It's going to be worth it. It is going to be worth it. Whatever capacity you have to do something for the Lord, do it now. Amen?